been the sort of go-to source for information. It has become, I don't remember their slogan, but it is the go-to encyclopedia. You just Google stuff, and if there's a Wikipedia page on it, it will probably be the first result. And generally, since Wikipedia came into being, it has been somewhat reliable a source for much of the information that you would go to it for. That is questionable at best nowadays, and John Stossel did a fantastic piece. We will go through some of that, explaining why it is unreliable. I've seen in recent years a lot of issues with Wikipedia Foundation, which is, their charity, and the money goes to some things that many people, certainly the people on this channel, wouldn't appreciate. But when you go on Wikipedia, often, I'm sure you've all experienced this, you'll have this big, super emotional fundraiser, like we're about to go out of business. You have to give us just $2 and you will save the whole Wikipedia organization. And it turns out Wikipedia, the online encyclopedia, has no issues. And of course, it's the people editing it are doing it for free, so it wouldn't really have issues. But the money goes to Wikipedia Foundation, which really likes to give it out to all sorts of places. So um, yeah, anyway, Wikipedia is our topic today. We will go through that piece by John Stossel. Welcome to the reality show. I'm Razi Ginsburg. I'm joined by Jonathan Honig, Alejandro, Daniel. Alejandro, I'm going to go to you first. Generally, do you consider, and have you been considering, Wikipedia a reliable source throughout your life?
Uh, as such, it depends. I think it's a good first source, a good way to start your investigation. Although I think if you really want to delve into a topic, you have to go well beyond Wikipedia. That has been, I think, ever since internet came, that had been one of the advice of the adults. Don't take for granted what Wikipedia says. I think it's still the case. And what it's relevant here is that Wikipedia as such is part of the culture, and as part of the culture is going to throw you really cultural bad stuff. And if you combine that with the type of media that Wikipedia is, which is essentially open to the public and therefore subject to not the same constraints as some paid up encyclopedias in the past. You don't have the necessity to be more equal or equal weighted or more objective than in the past.
Just quickly, Ian in the chat says the foundation has nothing to do with the content on Wikipedia. Yeah, but the money they're asking for on Wikipedia goes to the foundation, as far as I understand. Ian also says, I'll look at the Stossel stuff, but most of the bias complaints I've seen about Wikipedia have been oversold. Well, we'll go through some of Stossel's video here, but I have to say, even before that, when I look at the current war, it is not oversold. I mean, it is very, very biased in favor of again, the worst people on the planet, the Palestinians, the worst culture, and yeah, and of course, if you're biased in favor of them, you're to some extent biased in favor of the people around the world who promote those ideas and make life worse for all of us. Jonathan.
Wikipedia, in my experience, has been historically useful, reliable, as Alejandro alluded to, as kind of a starting point for information. What surprised me most about, and I said information, statistics, not even so much commentary or analysis. What surprised me about the Stossel piece and what I didn't know was how, despite the fact Wikipedia claims to be open to anyone, at least according to Stossel, it's really a small number of editors, very powerful editors, that ultimately decide what makes the list. And to Alejandro's point, I mean, what would make Wikipedia any different than today's musical environment, today's art world, today's education world? This is all part of a real nihilistic environment that has really no concern for the truth. And the so-called DEI movement, if it's on its way out, it's not on its way out at Wikipedia, at least not yet.
Bonnie says, great to see Alejandro back. Absolutely. It's a Christmas miracle. I would say, I believe that's a Christmas sweater as well. So, yeah, and I even see some of the trolls in the chat wishing each other a Merry Christmas. Yeah, do it while you can. When your side wins, that's not going to be legal and it will get you beheaded. Daniel.
Well, Alejandro never left, by the way, so he's not back. He's just, occasional appearance. Now, when it comes to, to a large extent, I love Wikipedia, and I love my favorite videos on YouTube ever are Wikipedia wars, when you have like several editors like fighting on like one specific article. My favorite example of this is the Austro-Hungarian flag. For those who know history, there is no official Austro-Hungarian flag because it wasn't one state; it was like two separate states under one king, and because of Wikipedia used to have an Austro-Hungarian flag. Now it's so popular that it is associated with it. So you see, with that specific thing, you see how like Wikipedia and its sort of like monopoly on information can like be so strong that it like reinforces something that wasn't true, like something that has never been associated with the thing now is associated with the thing because of Wikipedia. So you have this like a weird new state of information. Now, when
No,
it comes to, yeah.
You don't mean monopoly, though. When you say they have monopoly, just for viewers that might be
Sure.
activism, you don't mean monopoly. Dominance, perhaps dominance.
Yeah, dominance. Yeah. I don't mean monopoly in the context of like that is what like the only legal thing to be allowed. But if you look for anything, Wikipedia is the first thing that shows up. If you use like a language model, Wikipedia is where the information gets from. So it is like the main thing that is being used. So it can like reinforce anything that happens. Now, I have a lot to say. One, I think, main thing to say about Wikipedia is that in many ways, you can almost view it as like some sort of free market, some sort of capitalism in the way of it depends of how the culture is, right? People try to criticize capitalism because of like dishonest businessmen. But the fact is that capitalism is a system for the best within people. If you have a bad culture, capitalism will not prosper. Capitalism requires honest people. Capitalism requires, it basically puts in forward the best within you. So if you have corrupt culture, any sort of capitalism, any sort of freedom will devolve into some sort of authoritarian state. And I think the same thing with Wikipedia. If we had a decent culture, Wikipedia would be the greatest thing ever. But because of so much both intellectual in academia, sort of culture, or even such a bad way people look at international politics. I mean, if you are writing a Wikipedia article on the genocide in Gaza, well, all the leading experts, all the genocide scholars, the UN, the international organizations, all of them say that NGOs are saying that Israel is committing a genocide. So to go against that would require, objective view of the world, not what generally people believe, which Wikipedia at the end of the day that's what it is, right? What most people can agree on that this is what we think it is.
Equal to Reality offended me a little bit by asking, is this one pre-recorded or are they actually live due to it being Christmas? Come on, man. When are we not here? Like, the world doesn't stop turning and ARC UK doesn't stop its commentary. But Equal to Reality also gifted 5 Ayn Rand Center UK YouTube memberships. Thank you very much, Equal to Reality. Okay, but before we continue, usually Daniel, I will type this in the Zoom chat to ask you, but it's long. There was a video that I asked you to find if you could for one of the episodes we did about TPUSA, where there was a question of a panel of 3 people. Do you remember that? You did? Okay, never mind. That would have been something to fit in there, but I don't know who the people are. So we will look it up and see if we can fit it into a upcoming episode. Should we start the video?
Roll it.
Say hello to Grokopedia.
Recently, Elon Musk launched Grokopedia to compete with Wikipedia, which he calls Wokepedia because it's so left-wing. But is Wikipedia really left-wing? Well, yes.
Years ago, Wikipedia was a dream.
10 years ago, I reported how Wikipedia had changed encyclopedias. People assumed encyclopedias needed a staff of paid researchers. Wikipedia is like a public restroom, sneered Britannica's editor. But just a few years after he said that, Wikipedia had won.
Wikipedia became the world's go-to resource. When you look something up, it's there.
While Britannica stopped printing books.
I love Britannica.
Wikipedia founder Jimmy Wales told me.
I love candles too, but I sure wouldn't give up my electric light.
In a TED Talk, he explained.
People are always asking, well, who's in charge of this or who does that? And the answer is anybody who wants to pitch in.
Anyone can edit, says Wikipedia's ad. But now I realize that when it comes to politics, leftists dominate. Some proudly advertise that they're socialists and post pictures of Che and Lenin on their profiles.
No encyclopedia, to my knowledge, has been as biased as Wikipedia.
Larry Sanger's Wikipedia's other founder.
I inflicted this thing on the world, and I kind of regret it.
It's
All
designed
right, maybe we can pause here a little bit just because I don't want to run with the video too much as well. Yeah, anyone can edit is very important for growth. It helps because people will edit, more people will edit and then you grow. But it's also, there's a problem there. And I think they're pointing to this problem. And as the co-founder says, he sees this problem. Alejandro, before I go to you, let me just read a couple of comments here. Ian says, Grokopedia is a joke, mostly cobbled from Wikipedia. I haven't even checked it out yet, so I'll take your word for it. But yeah, Alejandro.
Well, let's be careful on the things that we're saying here. One is talking about Wikipedia as a business, and us as well, like having opinions on where the business could go. Like I think there's a need for a business that shows you articles of interest and development, just as any encyclopedia used to have, that shows you more facts, and then from the facts gives you a certain amount of, or array of interpretations, and then you make an idea from that, or something like that. Against propaganda or things that are just thrown at you as if they were facts when in reality they are not. And I think that can be an illegitimate matter. And let's distinguish that business thoughts to the idea of saying that the government should intervene, Wikipedia, or any other kind of matter that it's more political. And I think since we are also talking about people who maybe are not very much into objectivism, I think all of here in this panel is not arguing for sanctioning or doing anything against Wikipedia, but we're saying, okay, let's think about what Wikipedia says, and maybe it doesn't make sense what they're doing compared to their alleged goals, or the goals that maybe we should be aspiring to in the type of media that Wikipedia is.
Yeah, Jonathan, I think this is the first time in a week where we have a day without a single show about the Turning Point USA conference or the conservative movement in general. And one of the things that I said that I think is a problem there, and that we saw very much materialize at that conference, is their idea of, in their case, their idea of free speech, which is, they get it wrong. And part of their idea of free speech is you have to let everybody in. And if you say, I don't want to associate with this person, you're somehow violating their right to free speech. It kind of feels like Wikipedia is the encyclopedia version of that. Anybody can edit is a problem.
Yeah, I mean, the Britannica editor ultimately was right that perhaps you do need some editors. Although I disagree in that clip with the other Wikipedia founder who said that this is something that he, quote, inflicted on the world. I was looking this up because I'm a little older than the rest of you gentlemen. I have very faint memories of my parents buying a set of encyclopedias when I was a very little boy in the early 1980s. And I looked it up, and it's like it's the equivalent of $4,000 or $5,000 today. So, I look at and I say Wikipedia, for me, I feel like, okay, Wikipedia is biased. Like I'm aware of that the New York Times is biased. I'm aware of MSNBC is biased. And so with so-called conservative media as well. So I guess I'm just not so alarmed by it because I'm aware of it. And I do think that it does serve a value for a lot of people. Maybe not for complete analysis, but for looking up basic information. And the fact that Elon is launching competitors and others are launching competitors, that is outstanding as well. So maybe that's what we're really finally getting, that competition we need, among information among online encyclopedias writ large, knowing that Wikipedia is as left as it is.
Yeah. By the way, what Ian said before about Grokpedia, that sounds plausible. And the thing is, there's also stuff that's new isn't best when it's new. It's usually best when it develops over time. I don't know if that's going to be the case because again, X under Elon Musk, some things are better, but certainly this whole upside down view of free speech is definitely a part of it. And you see some really vile people make a name for themselves because of that. WUB says Wikipedia also consider Al Jazeera and The Guardian reliable sources of information. Yeah, that's particularly bad in the case of Al Jazeera because we're talking about a government propaganda network of an Islamic theocracy that sponsors terrorism worldwide. You would think that would come with, at the very least, a major asterisk in the same sense that you would want in an encyclopedia to know, what Der Stürmer said in Nazi Germany or what Pravda said in, communist Soviet Union, but you won't treat it as a source of information. Daniel, I remember experiencing what Jonathan was talking about, like where you get an encyclopedia, and as a kid, it's like it's if you grew up before the internet, this was the closest thing to the internet. Like there's all the knowledge in the world pretty much as far as you can tell in there. And Daniel can't answer that point because he has to step aside. So I'm going to ask Alejandro. Oh, no, yeah. What is that?
This is Facts and Records. This is one of the first kind of like encyclopedias I ever got, which again is just like a bunch of like facts about like animals. So I'm in your world, guys. I'm also was in there. But yeah, when it comes to again, I think several things are happening here. Well, let's look at the way what Wikipedia is trying to do, right? The whole goal is the neutral point of view, like to achieve a neutral point of view, which is great thing when it comes to generally science, although not even there really, because the fact is, when we are talking about bias, there are two ways to understand it. One way of understanding bias is that sort of, this is my side, so I downplay bad things here, or I try to ignore some things here, and I try to attack the other side more, or something like that. And the other side, the other sort of understanding of bias could be simply having a philosophy that you look at the world through, right? Because even with something that we consider objective, like science, well, you still need understanding that your senses are not lying to you. You can rely on your knowledge. Reality is objective, right? We can discover reality. If you do not have that point of view, then even science could, like, imagine if a bunch of philosophers started, like modern philosophers, starting writing the science articles. Well, maybe we know this, maybe we don't. This is thing, but maybe it isn't. Like, the science articles would look as bad as the other ones. And so even when it comes to politics or any philosophy, you cannot have neutral point of view. You need to have a philosophy to judge things by. If you are looking at a historical conflict or anything, you need a proper way, like you need a way to view the world to judge it by. Like, how do you look at the American Civil War, for example, without having a stance on slavery? Like, you need to have a stance to have like proper understanding of it. How, one of the really good books I read this year is the Sherman's March to Sea, which is about General Sherman going through during the Civil War, going through it. I could pull out like quotes from that book that would show him as like a genocidal maniac. And I could like pull out the quotes that would show him as like proper understanding of war and what it needs to be done in it, right? You need, and you need that. So that is, I think, one problem in a sense with Wikipedia is people who think, or even if we, I'm not sure if Wikipedia is necessarily trying to be, or people who use it are trying to be. But the fact is, understanding conflicts, understanding the world needs a proper context, and it cannot be put on like one page, no matter how much stuff you try to do there. Like things, especially in politics, philosophy, and history, cannot be treated as factoids. Cannot be treated as like this happened, then this happened, then this happened, then this happened. You need like a framework to judge anything by. That's why books are usually much better at analyzing a conflict, because you have a specific view that you're going through instead of, you know, this idea of like neutral view of the conflict. Because what is the neutral view of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict?
Ginger says in the chat, I once made a correction on a self-serving entry in Wikipedia. I included sources from historians. It was up for a while and then switched back without notice to the prior lies. Yeah, and I think we're going to hear such cases as well later in the video. We might not, because we're not going to make it through the whole video, but you should watch. It's not long. It's less than 15 minutes, I believe. Had another point. I don't remember what it was, so let's yeah.
I'll just jump in and thank Ginger for being a YouTube member. You know, Ginger, Ian Gilmore, 00 Govan, they're all YouTube members. And this is not too much money. I think it's maybe £5 or £10 a month. You get access to all the VIP stuff. You get to support ideas, which ultimately are the only thing that's going to change the culture. Support people learning about Miss Rand, reading Ayn Rand's ideas, applying her philosophy to today's culture. So thanks to all of our supporters, especially the YouTube members, which literally keep us on the air live every single day.
Yeah, and I will say for a slightly more expensive £50 a month, you could become an Inner Circle member on YouTube, get access to James Valiant's course on the Constitution, our production meetings, much more, including every single talk at this year's Irreplaceable Spark conference a couple of months ago, from Jonathan Honig's opening talk to Leonard Peikoff's closing talk and everything in between. So yeah, that sounds like a really, really nice Christmas gift to give to yourself. The Christmas gift we're about to give you by watching more of this video, not so much, but our commentary will make up for it.
Yeah, I would only throw that because some people in the chat mentioned Wikipedia a couple of times. We did cover this topic in the past a few times, so look up Wikipedia Ayn Rand Center UK on YouTube and you'll be able to find more videos on this. And we specifically cover the Arabic version of Wikipedia, which you'd be surprised how different view of reality almost it has compared to the English one, and even more specifically about something like Israeli-Palestinian conflict.
That was such a beautiful segue I had there right into the video, but that point is worth making. All right, let's see more of the video.
Agenda that you can't see.
Journalist Ashley Rinsberg runs Neutral Point of View, which exposes Wikipedia bias. It's just one website, so what if it's biased?
Wikipedia's information spreads into everything online.
It sure does, and Wikipedia brags about that.
AI studies Wikipedia. Search engines copy it. Your smart speaker whispers it back to you.
ChatGPT, every other frontier AI model, onto Google, onto your phone, Siri and Alexa, when you ask a question, it is all Wikipedia. It has become the ground truth for information online against which other claims and statements get compared to be considered true or false.
Wikipedia brags about that, too.
Here's what I found on Wikipedia. I mean the internet.
When you Google or ask AI a question, you often see
Wikipedia, 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 Wikipedia. That, in turn, is shaped by a handful of editors we don't know.
A handful? But Wikipedia claims.
When AI uses information from Wikipedia, it's drawing on knowledge created by millions of people.
At the end of the day, it's a few thousand powerful editors who are determining what gets counted as information on the most important topics.
And those editors sure hate Donald Trump. When Trump put illegal immigrants in detention centers during his first term, Wikipedia editors listed that under concentration camps. Well, the media had pointed out that children were put in cages. But 3 years ago, since Wikipedia says anyone can edit, I tried to put that in perspective. President Barack Obama built these cages. There, that's fixed. But within a day, my edit was taken down.
Wikipedia has definitely been taken over by woke activists.
Why would they lean left?
By nature. When you take something academic-minded, and Wikipedia editors are very academic-minded, they're naturally going to draw from that pool of academia, which is left-leaning.
People on the right are more likely to earn their living building things or farming, fishing, serving in police and military organizations. People on the left are more likely to be academics, reporters, lawyers, people who write for a living.
Yeah,
That gives
we had this debate about people on the left. This is, probably true, but it's no excuse. Look, the fact that people on the left work in such professions doesn't mean that what they're doing isn't biased. And it absolutely, in some cases, again, when the case is the war that Israel is currently fighting, it absolutely is biased. If you get your information, as viewers of this channel know, if you get your information about what's happening from the United Nations, about what's happening in Gaza, you're getting your information from Hamas. And if that doesn't show up in your reporting about that information, if you report it at all, then you are biased in favor of Hamas. Alejandro.
One of the things that we should bear in mind here is that knowledge is work. And I think that's one of the most important points that Ayn Rand made and tried to emphasize, that whenever cognition is involved, you have to act. There's not it's not an act of passive awareness. You have to grab things, see them, make an entire process in how you think about them. And projecting and consulting knowledge is also a cognitional aspect of sharing knowledge. However, and here as well, you could be a left-leaning person, but if you're really trying to convey cognition, and if you're really trying to make the other person really know, you should share them with the facts and then a plausible interpretation of the matter. In some cases, I think there is that, and I think the cascade of knowledge, which Alex Epstein in his Fossil Future book describes very well. But on other cases, which the one Stossel is describing here, you very clearly see that they aren't that interested in you knowing the full facts and knowing the full context that will drive you to arrive at the truth. And I think that's the most criticizable part of Wikipedia. If someone writes a fact, and instead of grabbing and saying, okay, there's this counter-argument, or there's this thing that ameliorates that fact, that's one thing. But if you completely delete it because it's against the narrative that you're trying to espouse, I think that's something that it's criticizable in the context of Wikipedia trying to be like this kind of neutral, low bias, informational framework.
Jonathan.
Yeah, I mean, I think Stossel brought out the point there that, there's a bit of a bait and switch when it comes to Wikipedia. They present themselves as open to anyone. So the sense is, wow, I'm getting kind of the shared knowledge of millions and millions of people. But as Stossel points out, it's a small number of editors that control, what is said about the most important topics. But I do think it is the culture that shapes it all. And I thought about something like a smokestack, just an image of a smokestack. And Rand has that wonderful line in The Anti-Industrial Revolution, where she writes that you should give a silent thank you to the nearest, grimiest, sootiest smokestack you should find. Basically talking about, innovation and what the smokestack brings to mankind. And I thought, Well, if you show that same photo of a smokestack to 99% of, I don't even know if it's just Wikipedia editors or people writ large. Most of the culture today would look at a smokestack and say, "Oh, that's terrible. That's fossil fuels. That's pollution." So it's the culture shapes it, and we need more people applauding smokestacks and factories and production instead of, I think, sneering at it, which most of the culture does today.
Daniel.
So in the chat, there seems to be sort of a fight going on of what we are exactly saying, which again, I said, like, I consider Wikipedia a great thing, but again, it needs proper understanding, or like a proper way of thinking about it. Like, a lot of information is good on Wikipedia, but when it comes to it, really relies on people's philosophy, or sort of what is the general view, right? Because what usually ends up on Wikipedia is what most people agree on, which I think, especially as objectivists, we would agree that that's not necessarily the best way to arrive at the truth. Now, when it comes to, I mean, even the specific, John also brought up that the article mentioned that the Trump used the prison cages or whatever, and he added that Obama built them. Well, is that like putting in full context? Because at the end of the day, Wikipedia articles can only be so short. Like, and again, this is why editing is hard. Like, and we do that every day when we do the show. What everything we mention and what everything we don't mention. When I say, Israel is right when it comes to the Israeli-Palestinian war, do I have to mention every single example where I don't think Israel was right? Would that be like more objective, or is more objective or more proper to say that I generally agree with what it's doing? When it comes to, again, the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, the Hamas information, if you go to Gaza war right now, it will have the Hamas numbers in the casualty field, right? Is that the objective way to show, because that's the only thing we have? I would say no, absolutely. It's wrong thing to have that, because this is information coming from a terrorist organization that hasn't even been independently verified. But because of the way, again, Wikipedia is set up, what you always see with every conflict, right? You have the information box and you expect the same things to have there, and it's bad if you don't have it there, right? So if it's Gaza war, if it's a war, we need casualty numbers. This is the number we have. We put in the Hamas numbers. And this is another example of how, it's like, and Alejandro mentioned it, right? It's information requires work. Knowledge is something earned. Knowledge is not something you just get told and then, okay, now I understand it. You have to, like, all the knowledge you have to be integrated in your whole body of, like, your own personal system, of your own personal philosophy, you could say. I mean, wouldn't necessarily use the term, but yes, sort of your own understanding of the world.
By the way, quick side point. I don't know, I haven't looked up the Wikipedia page on the history of anti-Semitism, but Kirk Wilcox will be on this show tomorrow for the first time in a long time. Tomorrow's topic of the reality show is Dave Chappelle's recent comments on Israel in his most recent Netflix special. But if you haven't watched Kirk Wilcox's video from a few days that he posted a few days ago about anti-Semitism, you really, really should. Daniel, if you have the link and can put it in the chat, in the description, it's an hour and 10 minutes. It's worth every second of your time. It's worth sharing. It really is absolutely fantastic. Yeah, Davey Boy says, excellent video by Kirk. Absolutely. Make sure you watch it, and let's watch some more of the Stossel video.
Advantage competing on Wikipedia.
The real barrier is to understand all the parliamentarian maneuvering, all the rules lawyering, all this kind of stuff that you need really takes years to understand it, to win a single debate about a single sentence.
In addition, Wikipedia has simply declared most conservative media generally unreliable. That means editors should not cite Fox News, The Federalist, The Daily Wire, The New York Post. By contrast, Wikipedia not only calls CNN reliable, it deems MSNBC, Vox, Slate, The Nation, and Mother Jones reliable. If you're a leftist, that's what you think.
They consider Fox in their bones to be unreliable, never to be used on a variety of important topics.
And Fox is unreliable sometimes, but so is MSNBC and CNN.
And the New York Times and any other rated reliable website or news outlet that's listed.
However,
MSNBC, The Nation, or Mother Jones, however far left you go, it's still going to be considered generally reliable.
Okay, let's pause there. This is a problem. Now, I've seen a lot of crap come out of a lot of, the mainstream right, and I've seen a lot of crap come out of the mainstream left. We talk about how we're a commentary channel, and so are the news channels. They just pretend like they're commentary. And I should say, the best person I know on any mainstream television in America is on Fox. So, yeah. No, I'm not referring to Bill O'Reilly, or actually, he's not on Fox anymore. I'm referring to Jonathan. But I will go to Alejandro first, and then I will go to Jonathan.
Well, I completely agree with you, Russi. I think the main problem of adding CNN and such a list of news sites is that they generally are not are mostly commentary channels, and what you get from them are just opinions. Yes, some of them displace some reporters to the site, and that's valuable, but also Fox News. And if you to the extent that what they're saying from the facts is true, I think some events of Fox News should be allowed. Some events of Fox News shouldn't be allowed, in the same way that certain comments of CNN shouldn't be allowed or should be allowed. I don't think it's a good idea to just deny certain news sites just because real problems that they may have or not. What you need to judge is if that site is decent enough to provide accurate information on the issue that you want to talk about.
I want to quickly say, Jonathan, before I go to you, Ian says all of those sites should be rated as unreliable. And no, actually, the comment I was going to read was Fox paid $787 million for election fraud lies. Any verdicts like that against CNN? First of all, the fact that there was a verdict there is significant, but MSNBC, sometimes when I'm in the US, I turn on the television and accidentally land on MSNBC, and like they do such bad, commentary and pretend that it's news, and they're name calling and they're name calling President Trump. I'm not a fan, as you know, but I would expect something better from a news channel. So, and remember, places like the New York Times reported on October 17th, 2023, that Israel bombed Al Ali Hospital in Gaza and 500 people are dead, because they got that information directly from Hamas, and they got that information about a bombing supposedly that had just happened, and they got it within minutes. They didn't question it. They just reported it, as the clip that we'll probably play towards the end of this video says. And so, yeah, I agree with your previous comment. All of them should be considered unreliable, and it doesn't mean that nothing that comes out of them is true. And yeah, you should actually look into the details each time. Jonathan.
Yeah, I mean, Bonnie Bertrand, who's also a YouTube member, a great supporter of our channel, she says when ChatGPT uses when ChatGPT uses Al Jazeera as a reference, I know what Al Jazeera is. That's my responsibility. If I don't know, I need to find out. And, I agree wholeheartedly. I mean, I think, my guess is a lot of us probably do that. When we see a claim on Wikipedia, we'll go down and see exactly what that source is. I mean, I know for me, for years, if it was Al Jazeera or RT, I just completely threw it out whole cloth. But also to do follow-up research. Even on sites like YouTube, you can often find primary research. Are there interviews with victims of a certain attack? It's easy to kind of moan and gripe about how left the culture is or how woke the culture is. But I also think that the tools are within our hands, and they're basically free to do the investigation you need to do to become truly, knowledgeable about any particular topic. I think the truth is out there, but it's not necessarily simple as just clicking on Wikipedia and being done for the day.
Yeah, Modine hears Al Jazeera, walks out of the room in protest. That is the correct thing to do. Yeah, but also, um, if you tell me something as, this is what I know, yeah, you should check the source as the listener or the reader, but uh, do better than telling me that this is a thing. Don't tell me what Hamas says, and there's a point there that you don't report this to begin with, even if you cite your sources. Daniel.
Yeah, just quickly, somebody said, even though Wikipedia is bad, I'm going to go to Wikipedia to brush up on Ayn Rand and the philosophy. I would probably recommend just reading her books. I don't think you have to go to Wikipedia. Again,
and the tremendous amount of number of her essays and talks that are available for free on the Ayn Rand Institute website, on YouTube. Yeah, to hear what Ayn Rand thinks, go listen to Ayn Rand. Daniel.
Yeah, and again, I would disagree with using Wikipedia as the site where you learn things, especially when it comes to I'm trying to learn history, and a lot of times on Wikipedia they just have summaries. They have just very like a conflict that took 5 years can have one paragraph in it or something. It's like you cannot have all the information in there. And I think especially in modern age, people, especially with chat language models right now, people just want to have quick answers right now. It's like, oh, I'm interested in this, I just want to have a quick answer right now. And I'm doing that as well sometimes, right? But yeah, the fact is that there are no shortcuts to knowledge. If you want to truly understand something, you need to learn some comprehensive work about it. There is no shortcut. There are no few paragraphs you can read from ChatGPT that could tell you what it actually is. And one more thing I'd like to say about generally the sort of news bias and news sources being reliable on unreliable, because I would even agree with maybe putting Fox News even on a tier below even CNN, maybe not MSNBC, but maybe CNN. But yeah, once you start accepting Al Jazeera or things like that, you are going crazy. But when it comes to news, the fact is, I want a value judgment from my news sites. We recently covered this when we covered the way BBC covered the Intifada chants. And at the end of the article, so the whole article was about that police in the UK will arrest people if they chant globalize the Intifada, since we know what it really means. And this is what, so the story was about this. At the end of this BBC article, well, first they put in something really bad, and then they corrected it. And now in that BBC article, it says, some people say globalized intifada is basically calling for the death of the Jews. Some people say globalized intifada means resistance. But it's like, well, the whole point of this article is about globalized intifada. How can you write an article without saying, hey, we don't know what it really means? So I want value judgments from my news sites. The fact is, most people's value judgments just really sucks in today's culture, and that's why we have sort of that's why I wouldn't even call a lot of news unreliable, because it's very rare that you have straight up lies. Ian brought up the Fox News example, straight up they are lying to you. But oftentimes what you have is just a really bad understanding of what's really going on, and then you get really bad sort of general overview, right?
Yeah, just quickly on Intifada, yeah, that was edited. So initially they only gave the Palestinian version. And yeah, it does mean resistance, but what BBC claimed was some people say it means peaceful resistance. Of course, they say globalize the Intifada. The Intifada was a violent uprising where Jews were murdered. And then the second Intifada was another violent uprising where more Jews were murdered. And so there is no doubt. And again, by giving both sides, you are showing your bias, because this is a very clear thing. If you are actually reporting the news, you say globalize the Intifada. This is what they are wanting to globalize. Here are the specifics, and there is no doubt it is violence. Okay, let's play a bit more of this clip. We are coming towards the end of the show. We're not going to play the whole thing, but it is worth watching, I think.
which is a Qatari-controlled outlet, considered to be generally reliable, that gives it a higher ranking in the reliability rating than many American conservative news outlets which have proper editorial structure and accountability.
Wikipedia's bias is also revealed in their choice of subjects. After the murder of this Ukrainian refugee,
a grisly stabbing in Charlotte, North Carolina,
Wikipedia editors wanted this article about her deleted, arguing that the topic may not meet Wikipedia's notability guideline.
Erase this story, because this story was a story about race, about who gets to be acknowledged as a victim. This was a white woman murdered by a black man, and Wikipedia very quickly tried to delete that article, saying it wasn't notable.
This is just one murder.
But when you look at other instances of single crimes or crimes that end up in the news cycle, they do stay on Wikipedia, and there's not an effort to delete them.
Also, although the killer had been arrested 14 times,
Wikipedia wouldn't allow him to be named on the website. They said, we have to protect his identity because he's a suspect. He's not been convicted. Fair enough. The problem is when you look at another case on the right.
A 17-year-old from a neighboring state is now under arrest tonight, accused of firing on demonstrators.
Kyle Rittenhouse, who was a minor, they named him dozens of times.
And Rittenhouse has never been convicted.
But Wikipedia had no problem putting his name out there for the world.
Okay, I think this is significant. And of course, the right is wrong even when it's right, so it turns stories that should be covered into things that they're not. This is not primarily about race. This is primarily about the fact that somebody who was arrested 14 times commits a murder, and then they're like, oh, well, maybe this will be the last time he's arrested. And yeah, if Wikipedia doesn't think this story is newsworthy, it was a big enough story. Again, notability, this is a big story in the culture that in America that people are still talking about. And that was a good example with the Kyle Rittenhouse case, who, again, wasn't convicted, shouldn't have been convicted, did the right thing. Alejandro, your thoughts?
Well, I think I agree that it's notable. I agree that because so many people are talking about it, there should at least be an article on that matter. What I'm a bit skeptical on the framing of Stossel is that one should be named and the other one shouldn't. I don't know the internal guidelines of Wikipedia, although I would be surprised that there isn't one that says, okay, one is mentioning the guy just because he killed someone, and the other one is mentioned the other one is mentioned as such, like a whole phenomenon. Maybe it makes sense to make the distinction. But again, I think one of the salient cases here, and what is very evident, is the clear tribalism of the culture, which is trespassed here as one matter of subject. Any person that desires justice would like a killer to go to jail, regardless of your left or right. And what happened in this horrendous case is that because the right was making a case of it, because of their internal wants to frame certain thing, but at the same time, I think it's a horrific crime. I should be thought about it. But because the right was making a case of it, then the left was trying to minimize it, and I think that was really, really bad. But again, Wikipedia is part of a culture, and you cannot get away from it in any way that you want it.
Yeah, I just want to read a comment here. Somebody says, no, it was about race because the killer says, I got that white girl after he killed her. Point taken. Correction, not put on page 17 as the New York Times does. But I still think this is secondary to the fact that he was arrested 14 times. If you have actually, I don't know how many of those he was convicted, but a 3 strikes law makes sense, people. Yeah, if you repeatedly commit crimes, at some point you should not be a part of society. Jonathan.
Well, I mean, I'm just looking kind of into the future, and Wikipedia, perhaps served its purpose for a period of time. But, I can also envision in the future, a for-profit news service that employs the experts maybe include some type of an encyclopedia element that builds credibility. Again, I go back to that comment from the Encyclopedia Britannica editor from the beginning of Stassel's piece, where he says Wikipedia is like a public restroom; anyone can walk in, and you don't want that. I wouldn't want that as my certainly as my primary news source. So in my mind, it just makes us even more incumbent on ourselves to support the entities that we believe in, that we believe are giving us the truth, including Ayn Rand Center UK, but to be much more discerning about the information that we receive and just not such a passive recipient of the news off of a site that's edited by a small number of left-wing editors.
To the person in the chat saying, true, it is secondary, but if it was a white person saying, yeah, I got that black boy, again, objectively, if it's somebody who was arrested 14 times, the race thing would be secondary to the fact that the person is still around and free to do such stuff. Daniel.
Yeah, I mean, but by the way, I think the sort of more professional Wikipedia was actually tried, I think by the same person. He tried to do like a online Wikipedia, but with just experts, and didn't, I don't know. I think John Stossel had this on like earlier Wikipedia videos, so people might look that up to specifically hear about that. But I mean, I think this is because when it comes to like understanding things, the fact is that we need experts, right? We need people who understand the field because of how much contextual knowledge there is. You need to have them, you need to trust them, and you need to be able to rely on them. And again, when it comes to Wikipedia, the fact is there is no the Wikipedia. There are a bunch of different articles edited by a bunch of different people in a bunch of different languages. Another example of like a Wikipedia war story. Apparently for a while, Croatian Wikipedia was controlled by one like far right guy who like did a complete revisionism of like the whole history like on Wikipedia because he was like the only one who was editing it. So I think that's another example of like why like having specific people, right? Like if I go to a page and I recognize, okay, this whole thing has been like hard edited by this one specific dude or this one super editor, and I know him, right? I know it. Okay, this guy is like a communist. I can have put less trust in it. But when it comes to most of it, the fact is that you don't really know unless you look into it. Like if you want, you can find out all the edits and you can find out who specifically edited which. But even then, it's like really hard to understand, right? Because you have to consider the source. If somebody recommends me a book and it's from Norman Finkelstein, I know, or if somebody sources a book or like gives me a source and it's from like a Norman Finkelstein book, it's like, okay, I don't have to take it seriously. But if somebody says, okay, I got this from Wikipedia, then it's like, well, what am I supposed to do with it? I mean, maybe you're right on this and maybe you're not.
Well, my number one consider the source point is when I think again back to October 17th, 2023, and the way it was, the way the Al Ali Hospital incident was reported. By the way, a reminder, what it actually was a Islamic Jihad rocket fired at Israel, fell into the parking lot of Al Ali Hospital, for some reason exploded into a massive ball of fire, and apparently a couple dozen people were killed. Not Israel bombed it and 500 were killed, but that is how it was reported. This was after the ambulance incident, and I think we have the news organization that kind of looks like what all these news organizations look like when they're reporting from Gaza.
Tom, I'm currently 10 miles outside of Beaverton, unable to get inside the town proper. We do not have any reports of fatalities yet, but we believe that the death toll may be in the hundreds of millions. Beaverton has only a population of about 8,000, Tom, so this would be quite devastating. Any word on how the survivors in the town are doing, Mitch? We're not sure what exactly is going on inside the town of Beaverton, Tom, but we're reporting that there's looting, raping, and yes, even acts of cannibalism. My God, you've actually seen people looting, raping, and eating each other. No, we haven't actually seen it, Tom. We're just reporting it.
That is the media in a nutshell. Alejandro, parting thoughts, and where can people find you?
Merry Christmas, and if you can find me in the playlist of essays of discussion of Ayn Rand's essays in this very same channel.
Yeah, to the people wanting to look into Rand's ideas, of course, Ayn Rand is where you start. You read her essays, many of which are available for free on ARI Campus, the Ayn Rand Institute website, where they have those essays. I believe it's still called ARI Campus, but anyway, you'll find it there. And yes, on this channel, you will find in-depth discussions of, if not every essay she has ever written, then many of them. I don't think it's every, but maybe everyone that's public, that's freely available. Anyway, check out that playlist. Jonathan, parting thoughts, and where can people find you?
Thanks to our supporters for supporting us being live 7 days a week with original programming inspired by Miss Rand's objectivism. And I know I published a book that was co-written by Dr. Peikoff, Can You Really Love a Dog? And it has nothing to do with politics. It has to do with our special relationships with the pets in our lives and why they're philosophically important. Get Dr. Peikoff's perspective. It's available at Amazon. Can You Really Love a Dog?
And we have somebody else asking, is this live or a rerun? It is live. We're always live, almost always. By the way, if it's not live, the place you can catch it later, other than this this channel, is X. Yeah, you can share it there as well. Sharing on X is much better than sharing from YouTube. The chances of more people seeing it are greater. Daniel, parting thoughts, and where can people find you?
I have to confess, because somebody was asking if this is a live or a rerun. No, this whole thing has been pre-recorded. Bonnie in the chat says this is live. No, this actually, we've planned all of this. We put people in the chat to ask specific questions so we can answer them at specific time. With that, you can find me on my YouTube channel, Damned Dan.
Sarcasm is for the left, Daniel. But anyway, Merry Christmas, everybody. I'm Razi Ginsburg on X. Jonathan, the Irreplaceable Spark Conference. You're speaking there. Daniel, do we have the pictures of the people speaking at Spark 2 ready to go? The people we have confirmed in case you missed it yesterday. We will have many more speakers who we will announce soon, but we've already announced Linda Cordair. Do you have the picture?
I don't have it.
Oh, man. All right. We'll do that tomorrow. Yeah, I believe I'm also going to be on Michael Leibowitz's podcast, Michael Leibowitz and Mark Pellegrino's podcast, The Capitalist Corner, for the first 20 minutes, if I'm not mistaken. Tomorrow, we'll be back with the Daily Objective afterwards and the reality show. We'll see you then.